Good morning, everybody. On behalf of the ISO, I'd like to welcome you to the draft participating transmission owner per unit costs 2025. My name is Elena Koppel-Alford, representing stakeholder affairs here at the ISO, and I'll be facilitating the web conference today. Before we get started, I just want to let you know that you can find all these draft cost guides on our website if you go to CAISO.com and navigate to the Stakeholder Center tab at the top and go to Recurring Processes, and you can find the section for this, and all the cost guides as well as the presentation is posted there. A few housekeeping reminders before we get started. This call is being recorded for informational and convenience purposes only. Any related transcriptions should not be reprinted without the ISO's permission, and the meeting is still structured to stimulate dialogue and engage different perspectives, but please keep your comments professional and respectful, and try and be brief and refrain from what's already been said so we can manage our time efficiently today. To raise your hand, make sure you open the participant and chat panels from the bottom right of WebEx. You will find the raise hand icon nestled in at the bottom of the participant panel. If you joined outside of WebEx, as in you dialed in, you can press *3 to get into the question queue, and we will call on your hand. And please remember, however you are asking your question or comment, please state your name and affiliation before making your comment. And you can also send your questions in the chat, and you can send that to all panelists. If you need technical assistance, you can send a chat to the event producer. Today's event producer is Ahmed. Okay, so for our agenda today, I'm going to be handing it over to Mike Uckel for the kickoff, and then the order that we have listed here is going to be a little bit, it's going to be a little bit different, and we're just going to be handing it off to each presenter, who will introduce themselves and which PTOs they're going to be covering. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Mike. Mike, if you're ready, you might be double muted.
Thank you. All right, thanks, Elena. I appreciate that. This is Mike Uckel, Senior Interconnection Specialist with California ISO here. And again, thank you everybody for joining and taking time out of your day for this stakeholder meeting. Just a quick overview. Again, this is for the participating transmission owner per unit cost guides. Per the ISO resource interconnection standards, we're required for PTOs to annually update and publish their per unit cost guides for use during current interconnection study cycle, or estimated cost of facilities required to interconnect generation to the ISO grid. And with that, I believe first up we have to present is DCRT. DCRT, if you'd like to go ahead and introduce your team and begin your presentation. Thank you.
Okay, so for DCRT, I think we have Ali Amirali, Ben Williams, Emilio Rodriguez, Joe Hall, Jason Crew. One of those folks is going to be presenting. Okay, let's move on to Desert Link, and we can come back to DCRT.
Good morning. Presenter rights requested. My name is Jack Nyland. I'm Senior Manager of Asset Management in the West for Ellis Power. My colleagues on the line include Ross Holt, Director of Asset Management in the West, and Garrett Kaufman, Substation Engineer. On my screen that you should all be seeing now is the DesertLink per unit cost guides for 2025. I will follow this up with the Ellis Power Grid California per unit cost guides. DesertLink's 2025 per unit costs are presented here, all of which are the used prevailing wage rates and assumptions are shown on here on the right side of the screen. As far as factors and assumptions, these are the standard items that we've used in the past. And for escalation rates and factors, we use a 2.5% escalation rate across all of the years. That ends my DesertLink presentation. Are there any questions?
I am not seeing any questions. If you're not seeing the raised hand icon, please make sure you open the participant panel and you'll see the raised hand there. I don't see any hands or any questions in the chat.
Thank you, Elena. I'm now going to share the Ellis Power Grid.
Ahmed, can you make sure that Jack has the, perfect, thank you. Okay, we're seeing Ellis Power, thank you.
On the screen, attendees should be seeing the Ellis Power Grid California 2025 per unit costs estimates. Using the same methodology as DesertLink, our costs are presented here, all of which use prevailing wage rates, and all the assumptions are shown on the right side of the screen. DesertLink's 2025 escalation rates and factors are similar, as well as I mentioned for DesertLink, Ellis Power Grid California's escalation rates are 2.5% across all the years. That concludes my Ellis Power Grid California presentation.
Okay, if there's any questions, you can raise your hand or you can put your questions in the chat. Okay, I am not seeing any questions. Okay, we are going to move over to GLW.
Hello, this is Jonathan Pitka. Could I have the presenter sharing capabilities enabled? Okay, great. I see that. This is Jonathan Pitka, Senior Project Manager, representing Grid Alliance West, which I'll call GLW, as well as Horizon West Transmission, which I'll refer to as HWT. We received no questions during the comment period. Therefore, I'm here to present general remarks prepared ahead of time by our subject matter experts regarding our 2025 per unit cost guides. First, I'll cover GLW and then HWT. Okay. I'm now sharing the screen for the 2025 per unit cost guide for Grid Alliance West with estimates for the main equipment categories for voltages of 230 kV and 500 kV, with the existing GLW system currently at 230 kV. Please note that GLW did not formally submit a cost guide 2024, but we did create one and used it for Cluster 14 projects. Broadly speaking, compared to last year, estimated costs for equipment were up 10 to 15% across the board. It varied by component, but the year-over-year average is about a 10% adder. Should mention that some engineered equipment increased significantly, especially breakers, whereas transformers remained somewhat flat. This is mostly driven by both market demand and commodity price increases in 2024, namely steel, aluminum, and copper. We've also seen some increases in shipping rates, both land and ocean land, as well as labor cost increases and some general inflation factors. Tariff impacts were not included in the recent per unit cost guide, but could impact future cost guides. Looking ahead, while there is uncertainty in the market with tariffs, we do not anticipate as big of a jump next year, and we anticipate the increase to be closely marked to inflation escalations. While the percentage increase well, the percentage has increased due to extreme inflation and supply chain pressures, GLW is still extremely competitive when benchmarked across the other PTOs within the California ISO. One final comment for additional context is that our 2021-22 guides were extremely low, and over the last few cycles, we have brought them more in line with realistic pricing we have been seeing in the market. Okay, I'm now going to move on to HWT. I'm now hopefully screen sharing the 2025 per unit cost guide for Horizon West transmission. That includes the estimates for the main equipment categories for voltages of 230 kV and 500 kV. One thing to note is that this is the first year HWT has prepared a per unit cost guide. Therefore, HWT has not provided comparisons to prior year. And the cost drivers were the same as mentioned previously for the GLW 2025 per unit cost guide. So that concludes the general overview of the 2025 per unit cost guides for both GLW and HWT. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. We have a couple questions in the chat from Karen Mouse. Please confirm that all cost guides include both labor and ROW costs. And also, if you can move the spreadsheet over since no figures are showing, that would be helpful to see those as well. Ahmed, can you give presenting rights back to Jonathan, please? Just while we're going over the questions.
Jonathan has presenting rights.
Okay. Jonathan, would you mind sharing again? Yeah.
Okay, hopefully you can see it again. Hopefully the figures are showing, or I'll scroll back over here.
Okay, yeah, we can see them now.
So, as I mentioned before, these are prepared remarks going over our per unit cost guide. I would recommend reviewing the different tabs on the per unit cost guide for the factors and assumptions. One other thing that we wanted to encourage is that there are additional follow-up questions related to the cost guide numbers and assumptions. It would be helpful to provide those in writing so that we can circulate them amongst our subject matter experts for answers.
Sorry about that. And so I don't know if this answers this question. For HWT and GLW, there are no assumptions listed on the bulk trans factors and assumptions tab.
Okay, right now, hopefully you can see my share screen. I just scrolled through both the GLW and the HWT per unit cost guide, and there is the second tab for each of these workbooks that would include the factors and assumptions. I'm not sure if the person asking the question has access to the full documents, but these should be also posted as the draft per unit cost guide on the CAISO website.
Okay, if you ask that question and you have a response, you can put that in chat and I could read that out loud. Okay, are there any other questions or comments? Karen does have her hand up, so let's go to Karen. Hi, Karen, go ahead. You might be on a second mute button.
Hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. I just, the other cost guides have assumptions built in to their workbooks, and you can clearly see if they include labor and what's not included in the prices. And I just wanted to know about HWT and GLW. What are the specific assumptions built into the costs, whereas the other workbooks provide that?
This is Jonathan, just to respond to this. If there are comments about the GLW or HWT methodologies and assumptions, and that if you have comments on what you think may not be in here or need further clarifications, I think that the best approach would be that we could follow up on this. As I mentioned before, our subject matter experts are not on the call to be able to specifically describe assumptions that are included or not included.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. We don't have any other hands, any other questions in the chat. Okay, thank you so much for your presentation. Okay, let's go to PG&E. Okay, if you are with PG&E and you are ready to present, please go ahead. Darren, are you presenting today?
Hi, good morning. No, I'm not the presenter. I'm not even the panelist, but we do have some folks that are supposed to be presenting today. I was trying to ping them to see if they were on.
Yeah, we have you as a panelist. We have, it should be Daniel, Register, and Ashwini. Yeah, I have you not as a panelist, but you are on the panel currently. So Daniel and Ashwini, I think, should be presenting.
Okay.
Can you hear me? This is Daniel Register from PG&E.
Hi, Daniel. Yes, we can hear you.
And then I just don't have the ability to share content.
Okay, we can give you presenting rights and you can share. Okay, you should be able to share now.
Perfect. I think you can see me now.
Yes, we can see your screen. Thank you.
Perfect. Here are our 2025 unit cost guides. We use the method of going for our actuals based on other implementation projects that have gone in the past. We've done true job estimates for the jobs that we've had and updated the unit cost guide accordingly. So I didn't receive any comments. So if there are any comments, just let me know and we can follow up with those, or I can answer anything we have here. I'll slowly go down here so you can see anything that you need. These are all updated with CAISO's shared guides, but I could also go down to the factors and assumption. As the previous presenter was showing, we have a little bit more assumptions, and I'm not sure if this would help with some of the assumptions that were asked previously, but 5-day work week, and then just multiple other assumptions that are in our unit cost guide. The one thing that is not updated in the escalation factor that's updated with the CAISO draft is the 2025 escalations. So we've updated this here. So our 2025 escalations are on the escalation tabs, and I'll provide this to CAISO after this call so we could update that. But I believe we had the 2023 escalations on the last, but this is just the more up-to-date. And then there are just another group of assumptions with the 500 kV. So since we don't have actual estimates on the 500 kV level, this is the methodology that we've done for loop lines for 500 kV. So this will also be updated and given to CAISO for public view. I don't know if there's any other questions, but besides that, that's all that I have to present for today.
Okay, I'm not seeing any questions in the queue.
Perfect. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Daniel, for your presentation. Okay, we're going to go to SCE.
All right, thanks, Elena. This is Freddie Bellamoria, and I will be, I can't share.
Okay, let's give the presenting rates to Freddie. Okay, your share button should now be colored in.
Okay, yeah, perfect. And let me know if you guys can see my screen.
We could see your screen. You may need to zoom in just a little bit. It's a little too small to read.
Okay, sure. There is that. Hopefully
Maybe
that's
just a
better.
little bit more. That's better. Maybe one more.
Okay.
Yes, and for anybody in attendance, you can zoom in as well in your own. You can toggle it right above the screen.
Okay,
Thanks,
so not a problem. Good morning, everyone. My name is Freddie Bellamoria, and I am a project advisor in the Customer Interconnections Group of the SB Department at Southern California Edison. And my group is responsible for producing the interconnection cluster study reports and cost aggregation. And today we have assembled a team of subject matter experts to go over our proposed 2025 unit cost guide. And each of these cost experts will address a specific section of the unit cost guide and point out highlights of that section. In a few cases, the scope has been updated to meet the current standards or new requirements in our recent studies. And I would also like to suggest to please hold off on any questions or comments till all our presenters have completed their parts. And to get us started, I will turn it over to Francisco Herrera.
Morning, everyone. My name is Francisco Herrera. I serve as an advisor in our project controls and central coordination group. Today, I'll be presenting the 2025 substation unit costs, updated to reflect the most current data, including material costs that is sourced from our active projects and SAP data, our labor rates that are based on current contracts with IBEW, overhead rates that align with Southern California Edison's transmission and distribution substation capital projects, and overhead rates. These updates ensure that our projections represent 2025 current dollars and provide the most current and accurate cost assessments available. Unless there are any other questions or interjections, I'd like to hand it back to our facilitator. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Freddie, is that back to you or back to me? Do you have more presenters and more material to cover?
Next will be our telecom information, and that'll be presented by Saurabh Dave, our telecommunications engineer.
Yeah, thank you, Freddie. Good morning, everyone. My name is Saurabh Dave. I'm a senior telecom engineer with SoCal Edison. My staff and I are responsible for supporting the cluster study reports by providing the telecom scope of work and estimate for all the cluster interconnection requests. The telecommunications 2025 cost guide is based on the 2024 guide, and each of the unit costs have been reviewed and updated to the 2025 constant dollars. And to update this cost guide, we follow the same process as last year, which involves reviewing the material invoices and jobs of the last 3 months of the 2024 year to monitor any cost variances. We compared this cost to last year's guide and noticed there were a few changes to some of the telecom elements in the 2025 cost guide. First, the unit cost of an outside enclosure cabinet and prefabricated communication building had increased due to the increase in the material cost by the supplier. Secondly, there was also a notable increase in the unit estimate to construct the fiber optic on the new and existing poles. This was mainly due to the increase in contract and labor costs to install the fiber optic cable. And lastly, the assumptions undertaken to assemble this unit cost guide are listed separately under the telecommunications tab of that worksheet that you are seeing. And that is all I have, and I'll turn it back over to Francisco and Viet for the transmission cost updates.
Morning again, this is Francisco, advisor with Project Control Central Coordination Group. I will be providing an overview for the 2025 bulk transmission unit costs. These updates reflect the latest data, including material costs generated from active projects, SAP data that aligns with market trends, labor rates that are based off our current contracts with IBEW, overhead rates that align with Southern California Edison transmission and distribution capital projects and overhead rates. These updates are designed to provide accurate financial assessments, ensuring that transmission projects remain efficient and cost-effective and represent 2025 current dollars. That is it for me. Thank you for your time. I'll welcome any questions. So I'll be handing back to Freddie.
Thanks, Francisco. And then Viet, if you have any additional information to share.
Sure. Thank you, Francisco. Freddie. Good morning, everyone. My name is Viet Nguyen. I'm a senior engineer in the SCE's Transmission Engineering Group. Our group is responsible for the engineering and designing of the SCE's 220 kV and 500 kV transmission system. Earlier, Francisco spoke about some of the updates we had in the unit cost guide due to material and labor changes. And now I would like to discuss the impact factors of the unit cost guide. The SCE unit cost guide attempts to account for variability of cost due to terrain, population density, and weather through the use of these impact factors. Costs can vary widely due to these factors. We utilize various impact factors to try to account for increased difficulty. Mountainous terrain, for example, may necessitate either helicopter construction of the line or require difficult access road construction. Higher cost micropile foundations could be required in forest areas, for example. Areas of dense population may require higher mitigation costs like line transpositions or taller structures for EMF field reduction. It is possible we might have to keep structures under a certain height near airports, which could require closer structure spacing and therefore additional structures to maintain adequate ground clearance. Weather also plays a factor in that icing and high wind areas could increase structural loading, thereby increasing the number of structures required or requiring bigger and larger structures. This summarizes SCE's methodology to estimating high voltage transmission line cost estimates. Next, I think we'll have Hugo Ayala speak on the subtrans unit costs.
Thank you, Viet. Good morning, everyone. My name is Hugo Ayala. I'm one of the transmission estimators in the SCE transmission organization. The team I work with has been supporting the cluster study reports by providing the sub-transmission scope of work and costs for the interconnection customer requests. The transmission 2025 cost guide is based on the same assumptions as the 2024 guide, and each of the unit costs have been reviewed and updated to the $2025. To update this cost guide, we followed the same process as last year. Our team reviewed the work scope based on the assumptions and developed costs utilizing current labor, material, contract, and overhead rates. The costs are based on the assumption of one SCE crew working straight time. The assumptions undertaken to assemble this unit cost guide are listed separately under the subtrans tab of the Excel worksheet. Thank you for your time, and I'll pass it back to Freddie.
All right, thanks, Hugo. We do have a section also for lump sum costs. And we just like to note that some projects can vary widely depending on the scope, and the unit price will not help in these cases. And so this is the list of typical lump sum items that we have in the guide. and some of these costs are likely to be included in the final cluster study cost reporting. It's also important to note that the unit cost guide excludes ITCC, which is the income tax component of contribution, corporate overheads such as P&B, pension and benefits, A&G, and admin and general support, and payroll taxes. These allocated costs will be added to a project's total cost estimate and final invoice as required. And then finally, we have Brian Wong to speak on escalation rates. So I will pass it over to him.
Thanks, Freddie. My name is Brian Wong. I'm a senior manager in the regulatory economics group in our FP&A organization at SCE. I'm responsible for cost escalation across SCE, including the transmission capital escalation rates presented in the 25 CAISO transmission unit guide. The escalation rates presented attempt to estimate the inflationary impacts of building transmission capital within our service territory. These rates should be applied to 2025 cost dollars for estimating costs and nominal dollars for transmission projects in years beyond 2025. The escalation rates are based upon one source, the Handy-Whitman Index of Public Utility Construction Costs, Electric Transmission, Pacific Region. The forecast of the Handy-Whitman Transmission Capital Cost Index is available in the S&P Global Market Intelligence product, and the forecast escalation rates are based upon the most recently available S&P Global forecasts at the time of preparation. The vintage of the escalation rates is the Q4 2024 S&P Global Data Release, which was released on January 30th, 2025. In this unit cost guide, the escalation index is rebased to 1 in the current year, which is 2025. These escalation rates can be found on the escalation rate tab within the unit cost spreadsheet. Thanks, and I'll pass it back to Freddie.
All right, thanks, Brian. And so in conclusion, our 2025 proposed unit cost guide is our best effort in forecasting SCE's unit cost for generation interconnection projects this year. Our estimators follow the recommended practice in according with Class 5 estimates conforming to the American Association of Cost Engineers guidelines. I'd also like to thank all of our engineers and estimators for their efforts in developing and updating the unit cost guide, and that concludes our presentation. So I'll hand it over back to you, Yelena.
Thanks, Freddie. Let's keep this up while we have a few questions before handing presenting rights back. So I have the first question from Wendy is asking why the SCE 230 kV substation, why the cost is so much higher than the 115 kV and higher than other PTOs.
Francisco, if you have some insight into that.
The demand for raw materials and like copper and steel have contributed to the high price increase. Also, infrastructure upgrades, the grid mods and renewable energy integration have also driven up the cost of these essential components. Electrical trends like the push for clean energy and electric vehicle adoption have also required upgrades to electrical infrastructure, and supply chain strains have also contributed to it as well.
Okay, thank you for that answer. And Wendy, if you have a follow-up question or need more clarification, you can add that in the chat, or you can raise your hand as well. And then we got some questions here that are for all panelists. Let me see if there's any specific ones. But for all PTOs and CAISO, and I can read them out loud. Thank you so much for your presentation, Freddie, and everybody that presented. We can come back to the main presentation. Okay, I am going to read out the general questions right now, if that's okay, from Karen Miles. Question 1, is there sufficient guidance on how these cost guides are developed and what assumptions should be included? SCE describes how they estimate the costs, for example, by pulling project data and comparisons from the past. Can we get more details on these approaches and writing from all PTOs? Mike, is this something that we can answer, or is this something we can maybe put in the in the comments, and we can have formal answers to those? Or is there anything that we can kind of how we can address that now?
I think the best path on this one would probably be to put those in the comments so that we can answer them formally in writing and get input from all PTOs.
I'll read out the other two just so everybody's on the same page too. So question 2 is how closely do the cost guides align to actual costs when the interconnection is implemented? You can reference historical projects and cost guides. And then the third question is, are these costs used for TPP cost estimates? If yes, how? If no, why not? Okay. Okay. Do you have any other comments on this, Mike?
No comments from me. Like I said, I think the best route would be to go ahead and put these in the comments, and then we can respond formally in writing to those and get everybody's input.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. And thank you, Karen. Karen says thank you as well. Okay, let's go to, let's go back up to DCRT. I think Emilio Rodriguez is on as a panelist.
Here, yes.
Okay, Emilio, do you have content that you can share? We can give you presenting rates.
Yeah, if you give me a presenting rights, I will present.
Okay, wonderful. And if you can move a little bit closer to the mic, we can hear you, but you're a little bit quiet.
Okay, do you hear me better?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay. I'll try to speak loud.
Okay, you should be able to share.
Allah is asking you to give permission. Oh, I'm starting to share my screen. So, afraid I'm gonna have to drop on.
Sorry, you're still pretty quiet. I'm not sure if you're having trouble. So with the share button at the bottom, it should be, since you have presenting rights, it should now be not gray. If you're able to share Excel.
Yeah, it's asking me to not allow me. It's taking me to the system out recording.
Oh, it might be something on your side. Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah. I don't know how to solve this.
Okay. If it's the same as what was posted on our website, I can bring that up. Let's, while I'm working on that, let's go to SDG&E, and then we will come back to you.
Good morning, everybody. This is Dalton Thornsberry with the Transmission Engineering Design Group over at SDG&E. I'll be speaking to our transmission numbers, factors and assumptions, and our escalation rates. And also on the call, we will have Bruno Velosa, who is a principal engineer with our Substation Engineering Design Group. It looks like I have presenting rights, so I'll go ahead and jump into our unit cost guide here. And let me know if you guys can see everything. I'll take silence as yes.
Yeah, we can see that. Thank you.
Perfect. Yeah, no problem. All right. So much like the other utilities here, our cost guide is based on different ratings of our lines and our equipment. Speaking to the transmission information specifically, we have our new transmission line install costs, or removal of transmission lines, reconductors, etc. We haven't seen huge adjustments in our overall cost per mile basis and our complexity levels. We expect to see some updates moving towards 2026, as obviously our economic environment is changing quite a bit right now, and we are seeing our medium complexity projects come a little bit closer to our low complexity projects in terms of cost per mile. We do have some key assumptions here that you guys can view in the unit cost guide on the CAISO website. The big thing that we want to speak to is just our complexity factors. A lot of these line items are determined based on remote locations, difficult access, long lead permitting times, etc., environmental restrictions, freeway and railroad crossings, and the circuit types. So with a lot of engineered poles and things like that, we do see a shift towards a little bit higher overall cost per mile. Some of our key factors and assumptions here is that our labor straight time, you guys can read these out as you would like, of course in the unit cost guide as well. Speaking to our escalation rates and factors, all of our escalation rates come from the S&P Global Insight escalation rates. This is their Q4 2024 power planner numbers, and our base year is set to 2025. So we have our historical data here that comes from that guide, and then our forward-looking statements are going to be 2025 onward. Overall, like I said, our cost details are based on complexity, etc. And I think I can turn it over to Bruno to speak to our substation engineering and design factors and assumptions and new substation equipment numbers. Bruno, you want to go ahead and speak to these items?
Yeah, can anybody hear me?
Yep, loud and clear.
Yeah, I don't know if you can try to give me share right so I can, or you can move it down if you want, Dalton, when I say move it down.
Yeah, no problem. I can scroll down for you.
We'll do it that way. So hi, everybody. My name is Bruno Velosa from Substation Engineering from SDNE. I will be going over the substation part of the SDNE unit cost table. Just, I think like everybody and Dalton mentioned, we use the IHS Global Insight numbers for the substation escalation rates also. And we started last year to use a new cost estimating tool. We are implementing a new cost estimating tool, and we continue to improve on our cost estimating, getting more detail, adding more information that possibly was not included in some of them. So our costs have gone up a little bit. Also, the big thing that has gone up has been equipment cost, especially for us, the 69 kV. As everybody knows, we're going away from FX6 for the circuit breakers. So those costs have increased a lot in equipment. So depending on what location, what project, not what location, what project you have on voltage, our prices may go up severely, not severely, but higher than if you were at 230 kV, the 69 would go be higher than that. Our costs have continued to also increase in contracting. We have seen increases in our contractors' work and cost, and also, like we mentioned, equipment, material, delivery date times have also increased, which also escalate the cost because now you're building projects further out in the timeline during the escalation factor. I don't have anything else to mention, so that is for the substation. That's my presentation. Does anybody else have any other questions?
I don't see any hands or any questions in the chat.
All right. Thank you, Elena. I will kick it back over to you guys. Appreciate your time.
Okay, thank you so much for your presentation. Okay. And Daryl, you have not yet presented for VEA, that's correct? We're going to go over to you.
Okay. You'd like
and then
me
I will share for DCRT. I've got that ready, but we'll go after you.
Very good.
Okay, can we give presenting rights to Daryl? Oh, you've got presenting rights.
Doesn't seem to be sharing. There we go.
Okay. It's up now. We can see your screen, or we can see Excel.
Good morning, all. This is Daryl Holmes from Valley Electric Association. I'm a planning engineer for Valley, and I'm presenting our Valley's 138 kV per unit cost guide, updated for 2025. Three components is the first tab is the cost details. new substation equipment, replacement costs, removal of transmission, and then lump sum for many of the other components. Those costs have been updated by our subject matter experts in cost and procurement. The second tab is bulk transmission factors and assumptions. That has not changed from last year. The third tab is our escalation rate, and we share the same footprint as Grid Alliance West. So I just adopt their escalation rates in for calculating nominal cost of projects. And I think that's all I have to present on BEA's per unit cost guide for 2025.
Okay, I don't see any hands in the queue or questions in the chat. Thank you so much, Daryl, for presenting. Okay, let me share. So, okay, Emilio, if you are ready, let me know. I'm not seeing the WebEx, but I've got Excel pulled up. Let me know what tab and how to scroll through this. And Emilio, if you are speaking, we can't hear you. You might be on double mute.
Thank you. Now, do you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay. These are the 2025 proposed DCR transmission generator interconnection unit cost guides. Our system is just based on a 500 kilovolt transmission line and switching station. Therefore, we only have 500 kilovolt components in our prices. You will find information about equipment equipment at the beginning of the first slide. For replacement substation equipment, telecommunication infrastructure, new HP transmission lines, everything in 500 kilovolts. When we get to reconductoring upgrades, metering, and other costs, there will be estimated on a lump sum. Moving to the second tab, there was no major changes to the previous tab. I have to say that our prices has been escalated from the last year using 40%. The projected average consumer prices changes, that was a 496% on a 60% of the producer price index by industry, electrical equipment and appliance. They was escalated for the last 2 years from our previous cost guide published in 2023. The aggregate escalation factor has been at 4.52%. For continuing on the slides, moving on the third slide, there has not been major updates on this one from the previous version. Same for telecom assumptions. And we go to the last slide. There has been an update on the escalation rates. We have used a forecast inflation rates, average consumer prices for the USA. Since we don't have access to any other indexes, we expect that the inflation period has been is behind us, and therefore we have adopted almost a flat scenario for prices with a 2.10% increase per year. That's all I have to present.
Thank you, Emilio. Let me see if there's any questions. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions in the chat or any hands in the queue. Okay, are there any questions in general? And did everybody get to present, or did we miss anybody? Okay. All right, I'm going to move over to next steps. So we have a comment template up on the process webpage. The link is here, where you can navigate there from the Stakeholder Center from our CAISO.com website. The comments are due by the end of May 22nd. and the final cost guides are slated to be posted in June. Okay, and we just have a few, if you're looking for any other meetings this week, we have the join links here, and we have our submission deadlines listed, our trainings, market sim. We started putting them all here so you can find everything in one place and find all the links and everything here. And we did post a new Energy Matters blog just a couple days ago. If you'd like to sign up and subscribe, you can also do that from the link here, so they can come directly to your inbox. Thank you so much for the discussion and for the questions today, and I hope you have a good rest of your day.
This event has concluded. Thank you for using Event Services. You may now disconnect.